Now, with huge amounts of the planet's water locked up in ice, sea levels plummet by 300 to 400 feet. The last great barrier to the spread of man is erased. We come across the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia to North America. We are telling the history of the world in 2 hours, and in just 1 hour, more than 13 billion years have already passed. These years of preparation have allowed man to finally emerge and spread out across the planet. And human history as we know it can truly begin. Our history of the world began with the beginning of time, the Big Bang. It has taken us on a journey of nearly 14 billion years. Now, as humans take center stage, it's important to remember just how small a slice of history we actually occupy. To make things simple, imagine compressing 14 billion years of history down to just 14 years.
On this scale, the Earth would have existed only for the past 5 years. So that's about 1/3 of the history of the universe. Large, complex creatures would have developed 7 months ago. On this scale, dinosaurs went extinct only about 3 weeks ago. The entire recorded history of humans would span only the last 3 minutes. Modern industrial societies, the Industrial Revolution effectively, 6 seconds ago. What this shows me is that we humans have been around for only a very brief instant in the recorded history of the universe.
Mankind has waited billions of years for our brief instant to shine. As the stars and our evolving planet carried out the slow work of organizing the elements in a way that would make human history possible. It's 10,000 BC, less than 100,000 years after expanding out of Africa. Man has reached South America. Humans have met the adversity of the Ice Age head-on, and rather than die off, we have adapted, become even more intelligent. And now we have colonized the entire globe. From coast to mountaintop. From tundra to desert, humans are there.
Our closest living ancestors, chimpanzees, live in the tropics. They only live in the tropics. Humans have managed to colonize the entire globe.
Ice Age land bridges allowed man to spread around the world. But now the ice begins to melt, and sea levels rise again. Humans are trapped and separated in 2 vast and unconnected hemispheres. Each pocket of humanity left to make the best of what it has been given. As the glaciers recede, they carve out lakes, rivers, and bays. The map as we know it emerges. In Africa, increased rainfall causes Lake Victoria and Lake Albert to overflow and form Egypt's Nile River. In Eurasia, other rivers emerge. The Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. The Indus in modern-day Pakistan, and China's Yellow and Yangtze.
These river valleys become critically important for how human history will now be played out following the retreat of these ice sheets.
These are the river valleys whose waters and fertile soils will allow the first seeds of civilization to be planted. With temperatures warming after the Ice Age, plants and animals are more plentiful, and man can finally choose to stop moving. Permanent settlements begin. Populations grow. With more mouths to feed, our ancestors have to get clever.
They had to find a way to increase the amount of food they could get from the surroundings.
Now, one discovery forever changes the planet and the path of mankind. We learn to plant seeds. And the seeds we sow come from the same plants that millions of years earlier spurred our evolution from ape to man. The unheralded hero of human history, grass.
A grass seed is tiny, right? It's no food. I can hunt a bison or I can take grass. I'm gonna hunt a bison, right? Ironically, grass seeds become the most important food crops in the world, but they're the things that are ignored by hunter-gatherers for thousands and thousands of years. People don't start using them until they absolutely have to use them.
Some of the species of grass that we are most familiar with includes sugarcane. It includes wheat and rye and barley. All of the cereal crops are types of grass. So it's not just that beautiful green lawn that we measure our middle-class success from. It's also the staple crop upon which civilization depends. It is the majority of our calorie intake.
Once again, it all goes back to the Big Bang. Central to the story of all life is our competition for that energy created at the beginning of time. Just as oxygen gave us an edge, just as fire allowed us to consume more calories. Switching to farming is an energy revolution. A hunter-gatherer needs 10 square miles of territory to provide himself with enough sustenance, enough energy in the form of plants and meat to survive. A farmer can harvest the sun's energy so efficiently, he can fulfill his needs using only 1/10 of a square mile of land. In the warming after the last ice age, farming begins to take hold in a half-dozen places around the globe. But by the fortunes of geography, no place in the ancient world has a better concentration of plants and animals that can be domesticated than the Middle East's Fertile Crescent.
In the Middle East, we have this remarkable convergence of species that seem to have been susceptible to domestication, both plants and animals. In terms of animals, we're talking about cattle, pigs, sheep, and goats. In terms of plants, 2 varieties of wheat, rye, barley, lentils, figs, all in this very small part of the world.
Unlike the Fertile Crescent and the rest of Afro-Eurasia, places like sub-Saharan Africa and the Americas have very few wild species that can be easily domesticated. It's a critical difference. People blessed with the right mix of plants and animals will become more powerful and get a massive head start on the road to the modern world. One animal that gives any human who can tame it an almost unbeatable edge is the horse. It's a little-known fact that although horses first evolved in the Americas, they died out there along with many other large mammals around 10,000 BC.
There were at least 3 species of Ice Age horses in North America, maybe more. Some as small as ponies, some as big as Clydesdales. And they had evolved in North America for 40 million years. They're part of the whole history, and then they're gone. They're gone.
These powerful potential allies disappear before they can be used by the first North Americans.
Fortunately, before that happened, large numbers of horses escaped back across the Bering Strait land bridge and spread out across the great grasslands, the steppe of Central Eurasia.
A narrow escape that had a profound effect on human history. Around 4000 BC, nomadic people in Central Asia learned to tame them for the first time. Domesticated horses will be harnessed across Eurasia, advancing everything from work to warfare. Perhaps no other animal has had a bigger influence on the course of human history. And the circle wouldn't be complete for another 5,000 years. when Christopher Columbus would bring horses with him on his second voyage to the Americas. His horses would be the first to set hooves in the Americas since the Great Die-Off over 10,000 years earlier. "6,000 years ago, domestication of animals and plants sets the stage for the next phase of human history. Like clouds of interstellar dust gathering in material to form stars, a type of gravity is at work as places like Sumeria, located in part of the Fertile Crescent known as Mesopotamia, draw in people, support large populations, and spin up into centers of power and innovation. By 3000 BC, some of these Sumerian settlements can truly be called our first cities. One of them, Uruk, has around 50,000 people living in less than 1 square mile. A population density that rivals modern-day New York City. Humans have become so efficient at deriving energy from domesticated food that this land area, which would have supported only a single hunter-gatherer, now can support thousands. But a change in diet also triggers a new dependence.
Once you move to agriculture, you are depending for 80–90% of your calories on perhaps 1 or 2 species. In the case of the Middle East, wheat and barley. In the case of wheat and barley, they both ripen at about the same time. Humans have to gather the seeds at the same time. So now we have our food for the year that has arrived in one hit. It's like getting your salary paid once a year. You need to record it, you need to plan, because if inevitably your crop fails, you have famine, and you're not gonna have another go for another 12 months.
In these first cities, crops are king. To keep track of them, our ancestors developed the first writing. To protect them, the first armies. And to administer them, the beginnings of politics.
When you have hundreds or thousands of people who are living together, there's simply too many people to sort of run around and create a census. It creates a need for government. It creates a need for some form of social and political hierarchy.
Planting seeds has set man on a new path. Settlements have grown into cities. But to take the next epic step from city to civilization, we'll need the help of a very surprising creature. "5,000 years ago, after wandering the earth for more than 100,000 years, mankind has begun to settle down. We cluster near rivers, along the Tigris and Euphrates, the Nile, the Indus, the Yellow and Yangtze. Civilizations are about to take off. But first, they must all master one thing: trade. The more they exchange goods and learn from other lands, the faster they grow.
It seems that long-distance trade and communication is a necessary precursor to allow urban civilization as we know it.
And surprisingly, the first civilizations arise on the back of a creature with a lowly reputation in the modern world: the donkey. The donkey caravan is the interstate highway and high-speed internet of its day. Their routes will